Hello all of you lovely people, Jules here for WhatCulture.com, and today I want to talk to you about video game bosses, or more specifically about those video game bosses that are just so goddamn funny that we almost didn't want to kill them. Note that I said almost because, of course, we definitely did. Now this is the thing, creating a memorable boss battle can take several forms, be they either so huge that the camera can barely fit them on screen, or that they're so powerful that they can kill you in one hit, or that they are just so almighty that they laugh at your pitiful attempts to take them down. But these bosses, well, they took a different route because remember, comedy will live forever. So yeah, let's take a look at these guys that tried very hard to be the punchlines before we punched their lights out. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 video game bosses that were almost too hilarious to kill. Number 10, Ripperoo from the Crash Bandicoot series. It's genuinely impossible to say which of the many battles that you have with Ripperoo is actually the most funny, because this maniac critter just is so utterly memorable and quite adorable too. This mutated kangaroo is easily the funniest character in the series, speaking only in cackles and jumping maniacally during fights like the kangaroo he is. In the original game, his boss area is a series of platforms which he will jump between in a changing pattern in an attempt to crush Crash. And you've got to set off the big TNT crates in order to do damage right back at him. He returns in the second game too, and it's the very first boss fight. Here again, he moves erratically and drops numerous explosives in the area, but now he's called Doctoroo, having completed a university education between the two games, as an alternate ending reveals. It's utterly silly and ludicrously entertaining. Number 9, Morgan Freeman, South Park: The Fractured But Whole. Not many games would have the chutzpah to bring players a boss battle against Morgan Freeman himself, but South Park: The Fractured But Whole pitted the party against the acting icon, and it was utterly memorable. Now, unlike a lot of battles on this list, the bout with the mighty Morgan is both optional and super difficult. As befits a man of his colossal stature, he's really only to be challenged by an endgame party. Beating him in Freeman's tacos is quite hilarious enough, and things only get funnier when he reveals his special moves. For example, $1 Million Bitch Slap is a very powerful move that will mess with your entire party. And then you've got Fart Sensei, which is an area of effect attack that applies the grossed out status. It's the toughest boss in the game, but while being very hard, also manages to be very silly. But then again, who the heck would even want to hurt Morgan Freeman in the first place to trigger this? Number 8, Toasty, Spyro the Dragon. Of course, Spyro the Dragon bosses don't really tend to be the hardest ones. I mean, generally speaking, the Reptilian Rapscallions games are quite comfortable rides and not exactly dipping into Dark Souls territory. Toasty is the original game's very first boss, so it's probably safe to say that nobody expected too much from him in the Artisan Kingdom. On entering Toasty's boss fight, the player finds him guarded by several pesky shepherds and sleeping dogs. And when you finally get to the villain himself, it's actually quite scary. It's a tall, angry-looking Nightmare Before Christmas reject with a scythe and a pumpkin head. But 3 simple flame attacks will see him off, and you get to watch him dash around in comical fashion trying to put out the fires. But the best part of it all is that he continues to lose his costume towards the fight's end, revealing in fact that he was just a sheep on stilts. Brilliant. Number 7, the Titanic Toddler, Zombies Ate My Neighbours. In this cult classic, our heroes Julie and Zeke must fight back against hordes of zombies which are, of course, attacking their neighbourhood. But the boss of the first level sets the ridiculous tone quite nicely because it is a gigantic, hideous baby, which is actually surprisingly fast and can trample over the player in a heartbeat if they aren't wary of its movements. To be honest, you haven't lived until you've seen this giant beast spraying its milk bottle like a projectile weapon, and yes, you can say that you've killed a baby in a video game and it doesn't make you feel bad about it. Number 6, Handsome Jack, Borderlands 2. If there's any series that can be defined by its snark, silly jokes and adult humour, it's, well, actually South Park, but then coming after that, it's definitely Borderlands, with some of the most driest, sarcastic and pop culture-laden dialogue around. Of all of the game's characters, none is as relentlessly quip-tastic as the villainous Handsome Jack. Borderlands the pre-sequel documents his rise to power, and Borderlands 2 allows the player to end it. But friend or foe, Jack keeps the hilarious dialogue flying throughout both titles. When it comes to the final battle with him in the latter, many players actually didn't want to take him down. The character had made his mark for certain, being so damn funny and charismatic that it actually felt like a crime to kill him. Lest we not forget though, he was definitely a bad guy. But to be honest, you kind of just want to wait to just watch him eke out one more hilarious rant against you, and it was quite sad when you had to put him down for good. Number 5, Gruntilda, the BANJO-KAZOOIE series. Gruntilda Winky Bunyan is the iconic antagonist of the Banjo-Kazooie series. This ghastly witch seems to be channeling the spirit of Bette Midler's Winnie Sanderson, achieving a blend of terrifying malevolence and slapstick silliness that is actually super tough to pull off. She first made her appearance in the original game, concocting a plot to steal the beauty of Banjo's sister Tooty, not being a fan of her own green, warty looks. But you know what, my friend? Love yourself. To prevent Banjo and Kazooie from thwarting her schemes, she creates a number of themed worlds that the heroic duo must fight their way through in order to reach her. Now, Gruntilda steals the show during every single second of screen time that she gets with her comical incompetence. But the best part is the final boss battle itself. Using the vicious teeth on the end of her broomstick, because why not have those, she flies around the arena maniacally, though begins to slow down just enough to give Banjo and Kazooie time to retaliate. The whole setup is so absurd, and some of the dialogue involved is priceless, but the funniest part actually comes just in the aftermath of her defeat. Knocked off her tower by the mighty Jinganator, the Wicked Witch is crushed by a boulder that fell along with her. Her lackey Klungo then spends 2 years trying to free the hapless Grunty from her predicament, and boy, is she angry about it. Number 4. Palmer, Final Fantasy VII. Now, Final Fantasy VII isn't, generally speaking, a silly game. Now, granted, it does have some choice lines of dialogue and some bizarre moments throughout, but it is quite a serious JRPG with an earnest story to tell, with Shinra as the figurehead of everything wrong with commercialism. Needless to say, Cloud and company tangle with the forces of Shinra several times throughout their adventure. Bigwigs Heidegger, Scarlet, President Shinra, and his son Rufus exude menace from every pore. But Palmer, meanwhile, well, he's the token comic relief, and it certainly shows in the boss battle with him. Palmer poses and postures at the party and even shakes his butt in a manner that nobody really wanted to see, but it all culminates in an hilarious slapstick scene in which Palmer runs away only to be knocked down by an incoming Shinra vehicle in a pratfall that even Charlie Chaplin would say, "God damn, that's good." Number 3. Bob the Killer Goldfish, the Earthworm Jim series. The Earthworm Jim series does not take itself too seriously. I mean, this is the story of an almighty earthworm in a supersuit after all, so it's safe to say that the seriousness ship has sailed quite some time ago. The boss battles in the franchise are always silly delights to behold, but the villainous Bob the Killer Goldfish offers some of the very funniest. As such, levels featuring Bob usually see our hero separating this fishy fiend from his underlings and then taking him down with ease, but Earthworm Jim 2 goes one better. The sequel suggests that a dramatic battle with Bob is on the cards this time around and even prepares the player for this battle, and then Jim casually removes the fish from his bowl and just swallows it. Brilliant. Number 2. FATMAN, Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty. The Metal Gear franchise has always been a series that tries to blend po-faced drama with silly, memorable moments, and in particular the boss battles have always been incredible spectacles. Some were incredibly poignant, while others were utterly ridiculous, and you can guess which category Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty's encounter with FATMAN falls into. Now, the fight itself isn't actually that funny in the same way that many others on this list are, but the whole situation is hilariously absurd. I mean, on paper it sounds really serious because we have a dangerous villain with a penchant for explosives covered in a bomb suit that makes him impervious to some of our attacks, but then we see that he is rollerblading around drinking fine wine through a straw. And then the tone changes. There's a tragic slapstick beauty in the way that he falls too, but that makes it just an even more hilarious encounter from start to finish. And number 1, The Great Mighty Pooh, CONKER'S Bad Fur Day. I mean, of course it was going to feature on this list. It's a giant, iconic hunk of fecal matter. CONKER'S Bad Fur Day is renowned as one of the least family-friendly titles to ever hit a Nintendo system. And this Pooh Mountain Dweller is just one of the reasons why. Encountered in Chapter 5 of the game, which is titled Sloprano, because of course it is, this disgusting creature has a penchant for sweet corn and opera singing. Its profanity-laden song, which is unfortunately more heavily censored in Conker Live and Reloaded, sets the scene for this battle nicely. He says he's going to hurl poopy projectiles at the player and sing while doing so, and you know what? That's exactly what happens. Conker, in response, has to throw toilet paper into its mouth, which is obviously its deadly weakness, while it's distracted with singing. The whole affair is so brilliantly ridiculous that we didn't even want to flush the Great Mighty Pooh out of Pooh Mountain, but unfortunately, them's the breaks. And there we go, those were 10 video game bosses that were almost too hilarious to kill. I hope that you enjoyed that, my friends, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. If you want to chat to me further, you can do so over on Twitter at RetroJ, or you can swing by Live and Let's Dice, my personal gaming channel where I stream every single Wednesday and Sunday. It'd be great to see you over there. But before I go, my friends, I just want to say one thing. We detailed today a lot about video game bosses that we had to basically just take a step back and laugh at. And sometimes that can be applied to our lives as well, because serious situations, oppressive and overwhelming times, they can be laughed at if you take a step back and gain some perspective. Because you might just go, oh, I was wasting a ton of time on that and I couldn't change the outcome. Why not see the comedy in this and move on in a healthier and happier way? I'm not saying it can be applied to everything, but just being able to inject a little bit of humor into our lives and giving ourselves a break and treating ourselves well is definitely important to make sure that we don't have to get taken down by the big bad bosses of our own lives. I hope you're well. Now go out there and smash it, you big ledge. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.